The heavy door of the restaurant swung open, and the low hum of conversations stopped dead for 2 whole seconds. 2 girls walked in barefoot, wearing visibly torn clothes, with an old acoustic guitar strapped to the back of one of them. They couldn't be more than 12 years old. The smaller one was gripping the other's hand with a desperate strength. The manager, Paul, came out of the kitchen, wiping his hands hastily on his pristine apron. "You can't come in here." One of the taller girls swallowed hard, nervous. "We just wanted to sing, in exchange for some bread, anything." Someone let out a mocking laugh at the back of the room, then another followed. A man in a tailored suit whispered something to his wife, and both chuckled, amused by the scene. Paul crossed his arms, impatient. "Girls, this is a fine dining establishment. It's not a... Let them sing." The firm voice came from a secluded table in the corner. A lone man, wearing a crisp dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up, raised his hand without taking his eyes off the children. Paul hesitated, uncomfortable. "Mr. Bennett, with all due respect, this isn't appropriate for the atmosphere. I'll cover the bill for anyone who complains." The room fell silent. Paul looked at the girls, then at the man, and finally took a step aside, resigned. The taller girl took the guitar off her back. The wood was chipped. 3 strings were missing. She looked at her sister, trying to instill courage. "We can do this." Sarah placed her fingers on the 3 remaining strings. Lily stood beside her, eyes fixed on the marble floor. "You can start whenever you want," said the man at the corner table in a gentle voice. Sarah strummed the first note, off key. Her fingers were trembling from the cold and fear. She tried again. Someone coughed loudly, on purpose, to intimidate them. Lily took a deep breath and began to sing. The voice came out low at first, almost a fragile whisper, but by the second line, something shifted radically. The voice filled the room, clear, powerful and steady, carrying a pain that didn't match a child's face. Sarah accompanied her on the guitar, compensating for the missing strings with brilliant improvisation. The 2 exchanged a quick glance and continued. The music was simple, a melody that seemed to come from a long time ago, heavy with nostalgia. The lyrics spoke of hope in dark days, of keeping on walking even when everything hurts inside. The man in the suit who had laughed earlier put his fork down slowly. His wife stopped chewing, mesmerized. James Bennett didn't blink once. When the last note died in the air, nobody applauded. The silence was dense, heavy, as if no one knew what to do with the raw emotion they had just witnessed. Then James clapped, once, twice, 3 times. The rest of the room followed, some with shy applause, others with more vigor. Paul cleared his throat, clearly disconcerted. Sarah held Lily's hand. The 2 did a quick curtsy and turned to run away. "Wait!" James stood up from his table and walked over to them. Up close, he saw the dirt under their nails, the matted hair, the cuts on their bare feet. "Are you hungry?" Sarah looked him in the eye for the first time. Her eyes were dark and full of mistrust. "We just wanted some bread, sir." "As agreed. That wasn't what I asked." Lily tugged on her sister's sleeve. "Sarah, sit over there." James pointed to his own table. "You're going to eat real food." Paul took a step forward, attempting to intervene again. "Mr. Bennett, I can't allow—" "Paul, how many years have you been working for me?" 8 years, sir." "Then you know I don't ask for things twice." The manager backed away immediately. James pulled out 2 chairs and motioned for the girls to sit. Sarah hesitated for a second, but Lily was already walking toward the table. Hunger was winning over fear. They sat on the edge of the chairs, tense, ready to bolt. James went back to his seat and called the waiter with a discreet gesture. "Bring 2 orders of the pre-fix lunch, orange juice and dessert for both." "Sir, we have no way to pay for this," Sarah said in a very low voice. "I didn't ask for money." The waiter returned quickly with the juices. Lily grabbed the glass with both hands and drank half of it in a single desperate gulp. Sarah drank slowly, never stopping her observation of James. "What are your names?" "Sarah. She's Lily." "How old are you?" 12. "Twins?" Sarah nodded her head. "Where are your parents?" Sarah's face closed up like a steel door. "We don't have any." James didn't insist. He recognized that kind of silence, the kind of silence that carries stories no one should have to carry alone. The food arrived. Steak, mashed potatoes, green beans, a fresh salad. Lily looked at Sarah, asking for permission. Sarah nodded slightly. The two ate too fast, almost without chewing. James pushed his own plate, still full, toward them. "I've already had lunch. You can eat mine." Sarah stopped with her fork in mid-air. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you sang, and because I wanted to. Nobody does anything for free. Not everyone wants something in return." Lily finished the food and wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. Her eyes were watering. "That was the best food I've ever eaten in my life." James felt something tighten in his chest. "Where do you live?" Absolute silence. "Do you have a place to sleep tonight?" Sarah lowered her head. "We get by." "That wasn't what I asked." "We have an aunt. She's sick. We sleep with her." "Where?" "In a place." James leaned his elbows on the table, leaning in slightly. "Look, I'm not going to ask anything else you don't want to answer, but I need you to listen to me. You sing well, very well, better than a lot of people I've seen on real stages." Sarah looked up. "So what? So what? Is that talent shouldn't be living on the street. It should be in a school in music class. It should be nurtured. We don't need pity." "I'm not offering pity." "Then what are you offering?" James took a deep breath. He hadn't planned this. He hadn't planned anything since the door opened and two barefoot girls walked into his silent world. "A chance, temporary, for you and for your aunt. A roof, food, a doctor if she needs one, in exchange for nothing, just until you get on your feet." Sarah let out a dry, hard laugh, the laugh of someone who has been conned before. "Nobody does that." "I'm doing it." Lily tugged on Sarah's sleeve again, pleadingly. "Sarah, Aunt Mary is coughing up blood. We need help." Sarah bit her lip until it almost bled. Her eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. "For how long?" "As long as you need." "And what do you want in return?" James looked steadily at the two girls. He saw the mistrust, the fear, the extreme exhaustion. He saw everything he had lost years ago and had never managed to touch again. "I just want you to have the chance to be kids again." Sarah woke up the next morning with Lily shivering beside her. The thin blanket wasn't enough to hold back the cold of the night. She pulled her sister close and looked at the cracked ceiling of the makeshift shelter where they were staying. 6 months ago, they still had a home. Small, but it had a door that locked. There was their mother singing while frying eggs on the stove. There was the smell of fresh coffee in the morning and the sound of the guitar at night when she rehearsed for performances in the square. Grace never managed to get off the streets completely, but she dreamed of real stages. She rehearsed as if a big producer were going to discover her at any moment. She taught her daughters to sing before she taught them to read. "One day you're going to sing in theaters at Carnegie Hall," she would say, adjusting Sarah's posture. "But you have to practice every day. Talent without hard work is worth nothing." Lily inherited the angelic voice. Sarah inherited the iron discipline. Their father had left when they were 4. Sarah barely remembered his face. She only remembered the stale smell of booze and the sound of the door slamming for the last time. Grace never spoke of him again. She worked cleaning houses during the day, sang in the park at night. She paid the rent, the food, and new strings for the guitar, always in that strict order, until the coughing started. At first, she pretended it was just a bad cold. Then she started coughing up blood in the bathroom and scrubbing the sink before the girls could see. But Sarah saw. She always saw everything. When Grace fainted in the street coming back from a cleaning job, the girls still had hope. The doctor at the free clinic spoke of tuberculosis, of free treatment, of absolute rest. But Grace didn't rest. She couldn't afford to. If she stopped working, they didn't eat. 3 months later, she didn't get out of bed anymore. Lily sang to her until the end. The same song they had sung at the restaurant, their mother's favorite song. Grace died holding both their hands. The last thing she said was, "Keep singing, always." Aunt Mary appeared at the funeral. Grace's younger sister, living on charity in a room at the back of an auto repair shop. She could barely take care of herself, but she took the girls in because she had no other moral choice. The rent money ran out fast. The guitar was the only thing Sarah didn't leave behind when the landlord padlocked the door. Aunt Mary tried. She looked for odd jobs, washed people's laundry, hemmed pants. But she was sick too. The same cough, the same deep fatigue. Sarah realized it was all going to happen again. So she started singing on the streets with Lily. Street corners, bus stops, public parks. They earned coins, sometimes food, almost always indifference, until that restaurant. James Bennett walked out of the restaurant with the girls in his luxury SUV. Sarah kept her hand on the door handle the entire ride, ready to jump if necessary. They guided him to an alley behind a mechanic's shop in Queens. Aunt Mary was lying on a mattress on the floor, covered with old newspapers. James stopped at the entrance, shocked. The smell of mold and dampness hit hard. Mary tried to sit up when she saw a well-dressed stranger enter. "Who are you?" "Auntie, he's going to help us," Lily said quickly. "Nobody helps for free." "That's what I said," Sarah muttered. James crouched down beside Mary. He saw the deathly pallor, the cracked lips, the trembling hands. "Ma'am, you need a doctor urgently." "I need money. The doctor is useless without medicine." "I'm paying for both." Mary laughed, but the laugh turned into a coughing fit. She spat into a rag that was already stained red. "Why?" James didn't answer instantly. Because he didn't know for sure himself, or maybe he knew but didn't want to admit it out loud. 7 years ago, he had a family. Anne, his wife, and Laura, his 8-month-old daughter who had just learned to smile. It was a Saturday morning. Anne was taking the baby to the pediatrician for a routine shot. James had a meeting at the office. He kissed them both at the door and said, "I'll be back for lunch." The truck ran the red light on 5th Avenue at 10:37 a.m. Anne died on impact. Laura held on for 3 days in the ICU before giving up. James spent the first few months waiting to die, too. He didn't eat, didn't sleep, didn't feel anything other than an absolute void that occupied all the space where life used to be. The company almost went bankrupt. He didn't care. Until one day, nearly 2 years later, he walked into a coffee shop and saw a father giving a bottle to a baby. The child smiled at him, that toothless, innocent, pure smile. James left the coffee shop, went home, and cried for the first time since the funeral. After that, he functioned on autopilot, woke up, worked, went home, slept, repeated. He had no friends, no close family, he had no plans. He just had a huge, silent house, full of empty rooms and memories in picture frames. Until that afternoon, when 2 barefoot girls walked into the restaurant asking to sing in exchange for bread. And something inside him woke up violently. Mary studied James's face for a long time. "You lost someone." It wasn't a question. James nodded slightly. "Then you know we don't have much time." "That's why I'm here." Mary looked at her nieces. Sarah, tough and suspicious. Lily, with hope still shining in her eyes. "Okay," she said. "But if you hurt these girls, I'll come back from the grave just to haunt you." James almost smiled. "Fair deal." The SUV pulled up in front of a large townhouse in a quiet, leafy suburb. Sarah looked out the window and then at James. "Here?" "Here." James got out and opened the back door to help Mary. She could barely stand. Lily held her arm on the other side. The house had a manicured front lawn. Lights on in the windows. An automatic gate. Sarah clutched the guitar to her chest, like a shield. James unlocked the front door. The interior was clean, organized, but empty in a strange way, as if no one really lived there. "The bedrooms are upstairs. You 3 will share the back hallway. There's a full bathroom, clean linens in the drawers." Mary looked around, still wary. "How long can we stay?" I already told you, as long as you need. And what do you want in return? Nothing. Everybody wants something. James stopped on the stairs and turned around. I want you to sleep without the fear of waking up on the street. Does that count? Mary didn't answer. James showed them the rooms. 2 with queen beds, 1 with 2 twin beds. He opened the closet and took out thick blankets, pillows, sheets. There are towels in the bathroom. Shampoo, soap, toothpaste, everything is new. If you need anything else, let me know. Lily walked into the room with the twin beds and sat on one slowly, as if testing if it was real. The mattress sank softly. She lay down and closed her eyes, sighing. Sarah, come feel this. Sarah entered but didn't sit. She stood still, staring at James. Where do you sleep? Downstairs. The room at the end of the hall. If you need me during the night, just come down. We won't need you. Even so. James left and closed the door carefully. Mary lay down in the room next door and fell asleep in seconds. Sarah and Lily stayed awake, sitting on the beds, looking at each other in the dim light. Do you think he's crazy? Lily whispered. I don't know, but we run at the first weird thing. And if it's not weird, what if he's for real? Nobody is for real, Lily. No, but Sarah let her sister fall asleep first, and for the first time in months, Lily slept through the night without waking up from cold or hunger. In the morning, James knocked on the door at 7 sharp. Breakfast is on the table. The girls came down cautiously. The kitchen table was full. Bagels, cheese, ham, fresh fruit, juice, milk, hot coffee. Aunt Mary was already seated, eating slowly. James was standing at the stove making scrambled eggs. Sleep well? He asked without turning around. I did, Mary replied. And you too? Sarah nodded. Lily said, that was the best bed I've ever slept in. James served the eggs on 3 plates and put them on the table. He took a cup of coffee and leaned against the sink. Aren't you going to eat? Sarah asked. I already ate. A lie. He hadn't eaten breakfast in years. But he wasn't going to say that. After breakfast, he took Mary to the hospital. She was admitted that same day. Severe pneumonia, advanced tuberculosis, critical malnutrition. The doctors spoke of weeks of treatment, maybe months. James paid for everything on the spot. Private room, the best antibiotics, full care. Mary held his hand before falling asleep for the first time with an IV in her arm. Why are you doing this? Because someone has to. But why you? James looked at her. He saw Grace, the sister she had lost. He saw the girls she had tried to save with all her might. He saw everything he hadn't managed to save in his own life. Because I can. In the following days, James adjusted his routine. He woke up, made coffee, let the girls eat in peace. He took Mary to the hospital every afternoon. He came back, made a simple dinner, let the girls watch television. On the 3rd day, he bought new clothes for both of them. Jeans, shirts, sneakers, winter coats. Nothing too expensive, nothing flashy. Sarah refused at first. We don't need this. Yes, you do. Those clothes don't even fit you anymore. We can't pay. I'm not charging. Then it's a debt. James crouched down in front of her, getting to her eye level. Sarah, it's not a debt, it's clothes. A child needs clothes, that's all. Sarah took the bags without looking at him, but that night she went down to the kitchen and found James washing dishes. She stood in the doorway until he noticed. Need something? Thank you. For the clothes. James nodded. You're welcome. And for the food. And for Auntie's doctor. It's okay, Sarah. I just wanted you to know that we don't forget. I know. Sarah left, but before going up the stairs, she stopped. Did you have a family? James turned off the faucet. I did. What happened? An accident. A long time ago. I'm sorry. Me too. On the 4th day, James was working in his home office when he heard music coming from upstairs. He walked up slowly and stopped at the door of the girls' room. Lily was singing softly while Sarah played the old guitar. The music was sad and beautiful at the same time. They stopped abruptly when they saw him standing there. Sorry, we didn't want to disturb you, Sarah said quickly. "You're not disturbing. Can we continue?" "You can." James sat on the floor of the hallway, outside the room, and listened. He listened to them rehearse, make mistakes, laugh, start over. He listened to the house having a sound again. When they finished, he clapped slowly. "You're good, very good." Sarah appeared at the door. "Our mom taught us every day. She said talent without practice is worth nothing." She was right. "Do you like music?" James thought of Anne singing in the shower, off-key and happy, of Laura rocking in her crib to the sound of lullabies. "I do." The next day he came home from work with a large box. He went straight up to the girls' room and knocked on the door. "Can I come in?" "Come in." He put the box on the bed and opened it. Inside was a brand new guitar, 6 strings, glossy varnish, tuned and perfect. Lily let out a little squeal of excitement. Sarah stood paralyzed. "Is this for us?" "Yes." "We can't accept it. It's too expensive." "Sarah, you sing every day. You need an instrument that works." "But..." "No buts. Pick up the guitar and play something for me to hear." Sarah picked up the instrument with sacred care, as if it were made of glass. She ran her fingers over the new strings. The sound came out clean, clear, perfect. She looked at James with tears streaming down her cheeks. "Thank you. Play." She played. Lily sang. James sat in the chair in the corner and closed his eyes. And for the first time in 7 years, he didn't feel alone inside his own house. That night, after the girls fell asleep, he went into the room that had been Laura's. He opened the closet that had been shut for years. He took out the toy box, the little dresses, the baby shoes. It didn't hurt as much as before. He closed the box, put everything back, and left. In the hallway, he heard Lily humming in her sleep, and he smiled. The first week turned into 2. 2 turned into a month. James started waking up to the sound of footsteps upstairs. Before, the house was a silent tomb until he left for the office. Now there were faucets turning on, closet doors closing, low voices talking. He would go up with the coffee ready and find the girls already making the beds. "Good morning." "Good morning," Lily always replied. Sarah just nodded. Breakfast became a routine. James made pancakes on Tuesdays. Sarah learned to make scrambled eggs the way he liked them. Lily set the table and chose the fruit. No one spoke much, but it was a comfortable, shared silence. Aunt Mary was discharged after 3 weeks. She came home thinner but breathing much better. She sat in the living room and looked around, as if seeing everything for the first time. "Are you okay?" "We are," Sarah said. "Did he treat you well?" "He did." Mary looked at James, who was making tea in the kitchen. "Thank you." "You're welcome. I'm going to pay for everything when I can work again." "No need." "Yes, need. I don't accept charity." James brought the tea and sat in the armchair opposite. "Then work here. The house is big. There's always laundry to do, food to make, rooms to tidy up. I pay a fair wage." Mary studied him for a long time. "You're smart. I'm practical. You don't want us to leave." James didn't deny it. "I want you to stay until you have somewhere to go. Whether that's tomorrow or a year from now, it doesn't matter. And if we never do, then you stay." Sarah heard everything from the stairs. She went up before anyone saw her. The following weeks brought a different routine. Mary took over the kitchen and cleaning, but James didn't let her do it alone. He washed dishes, mopped the living room, folded laundry. "You don't need to do this," Mary would say. "I live here too." The girls started helping. Lily swept the yard. Sarah organized the pantry, small tasks that made the house function like a home. James bought notebooks, pencils, books. He put everything on the living room table after coffee. "What is this?" Sarah asked. "School supplies." "We don't go to school." "Not yet, but you will. In the meantime, I teach." "Teach what?" "Math, English, history, whatever I know." Sarah crossed her arms, defiant. "We don't need this." "Yes, you do. Everybody needs it." "What for? We're going to sing. You don't need school to sing." James sat on the chair and looked her dead in the eye. "Sarah, your mom sang and worked cleaning houses. Why?" Because she didn't have an education. She didn't have a choice. Do you want to have a choice or not? Sarah pursed her lips. She didn't answer, but she sat in the chair. Lily already had her notebook open. Mornings turned into makeshift classes. James taught what he remembered from school. Basic math, reading, writing. Sarah was fast, picked up everything on the first explanation. Lily was slower but never gave up. After lunch they rehearsed. James listened from his office while he worked. Sometimes he came down just to sit and watch. You get better every day. We practice every day, Sarah said, just like your mom taught you. Just like that. One Saturday, James woke up early and went down to the basement. He stayed there for 2 hours tinkering with something the girls couldn't see. When he came up, his hands were stained with glue and varnish. What were you doing? Lily asked. Surprise. On Sunday, he called them both to the living room after coffee. Close your eyes. They closed them obediently. James went up and came back with their mother's old guitar, the one Sarah had carried the day they arrived. He had cleaned it, glued the cracks, changed the strings, varnished the wood until it looked new. You can open them. Sarah opened her eyes, and her breath hitched. You fixed it. I fixed it. She took the guitar with both hands. She ran her fingers over the now smooth, shiny wood. She strummed a string. The sound came out perfect, nostalgic. Lily started to cry with emotion. Sarah tried to speak, but her voice didn't come out. She just looked at James and nodded, moved. He understood. After that day, Sarah stopped sleeping with her hand on the doorknob. Afternoons began to include outings. James took all three to the park on Saturdays. Mary sat on a bench with a book while the girls ran. Lily got on the swing and screamed, "Higher!" when James pushed her. Sarah pretended she was too old for that, but James saw her watching with hidden longing. Go ahead. I won't tell anyone. Sarah got on the swing next to Lily. James pushed them both at the same time. For the first time since her mother died, Sarah laughed. A loose, loud, real child's laugh. James stood still, just watching. Mary saw it and smiled. You're good for them. They're good for me. Do you really not want anything in return? I already won. Look at them. Mary looked. She saw two little girls who a month ago were frightened shadows. Now they ran, laughed, played. You saved them. They saved me first. One night, James was on the computer searching for something intently. Mary passed by the office door with laundry to fold. Can I ask what you're doing? Looking for talent competitions for kids. For Sarah and Lily? Yes. Do they know? Not yet. Why? Because if I tell them beforehand, they'll get nervous. I'll sign them up and tell them only when it's confirmed. Mary entered and sat on the chair opposite him. James, you're planning a future with them. I am. And if their father shows up? What if someone wants to take them away? James stopped typing. I'll deal with that when it happens. You're getting attached. I'm already attached. Been that way for a while. Mary sighed deeply. I just don't want you to get hurt. Or them. I know. But he continued filling out the registration form anyway. 3 days later, the confirmation arrived. Local Youth Talent Showcase. 20 spots. Sarah and Lily had been accepted. James printed the email and left it on the breakfast table. Sarah read in absolute silence. She passed the paper to Lily. You signed us up? I signed you up. Without asking. Without asking. What if we don't want to? Then I cancel it. But before that, answer me. Do you want to? Sarah looked at Lily. The two looked at each other steadily for a long moment. Lily nodded, excited. Sarah looked back at James. We want to. The next few weeks were intense. They rehearsed 3 hours a day without fail. James helped by choosing songs, adjusting the tempo, giving critical feedback. Mary sewed simple but beautiful dresses for the performance. Lily chose sky blue. Sarah chose deep red. The house gained a different energy. There was music all the time. There was conversation, laughter, planning. There was vibrant life. James noticed this one night when he was lying in bed in his room. He heard Sarah and Lily talking quietly upstairs. He heard Mary humming in the kitchen. He saw the light on in the hallway. The house wasn't a mausoleum anymore. It was a home. He picked up the phone and called his personal lawyer. I need information on legal guardianship. Guardianship of whom? Of 2 little girls. Are they your daughters? Not yet. James, what are you planning? To do the right thing. He hung up before the lawyer could respond. On the day of the performance, James woke up earlier than usual. He made a hearty breakfast. Pancakes, sliced fruit, fresh juice. The girls came down already wearing their dresses. Mary had braided both their hair. You look beautiful. Lily spun around to show the flare of the dress. Sarah stood still, but she was smiling slightly. Nervous? James asked. A little. It'll go well. How do you know? Because I've heard you rehearse 100 times. You're ready. Sarah took a deep breath. What if we mess up? Then you mess up. But you mess up trying. In the SUV on the way to the event, Lily held Sarah's hand. Mary was in the back seat. James drove, focused. Thank you, Sarah said suddenly. Why? For believing we can do it. I've always believed. The event was at a small theatre in the city. 20 kids registered. Simple stage, basic lighting, audience made up of proud relatives. James, Mary, and other families sat in the front rows. The performances began. Piano, dance, magic, singing. Some good, others not so much. Then they called Sarah and Lily. The 2 went up on stage, Sarah with her mother's guitar, Lily by her side. They looked at each other. Sarah counted softly. 1, 2, 3, and they began. The music ended with the last note of the guitar echoing in the theatre. Silence for 2 seconds, then an ovation. Sarah and Lily walked off stage holding hands. James was grinning broadly. Mary was wiping away tears. They didn't win first place. They came in 3rd. But they won a certificate and a small cash prize, $50. In the car, Lily wouldn't stop talking. Did you see people's faces? They really liked it. They liked it, James confirmed. Sarah stayed quiet, looking out the window, but she was clutching the certificate tightly against her chest. When they arrived home, it was almost 6 in the evening. James parked in the driveway and killed the engine. Pizza for dinner. To celebrate. Yes! Lily shouted. They got out of the car. Mary opened the back door to get her bag. That was when they saw the man leaning against the gate, tall, skinny, stubble for a beard, wrinkled and dirty clothes. Smell of cheap booze noticeable even from afar. Sarah froze in place. Dad! Lily grabbed her sister's arm tightly. Richard pushed the gate, but it was locked. He slapped the metal with his open palm. Open this damn door! James took a step forward, instinctively placing himself between the girls and the gate. Who are you? Who am I? I'm their father. And you? A friend. Richard laughed. A slurred, mocking, despicable laugh. Friend? What kind of friend puts 2 little girls to live in his house? Mary pulled Sarah and Lily toward her to protect them. Richard, leave. I'm not leaving without my daughters. You abandoned them 8 years ago. And now I'm back. James kept his voice calm but firm. What do you want? My daughters, obviously. They don't want to go with you. I didn't ask what they want. I'm the father. They're coming with me. Sarah took a step forward, but Mary held her back. No, honey. James unlocked the gate and opened it just enough to step out himself. He closed it behind him. He stood face to face with Richard. How did you find out where they were? I asked around. It's not hard. 2 girls who sang on the street now living with a rich guy. Everyone's talking about it. And why did you come back now? Richard took a step closer. The breath of liquor hit hard. Because they're mine. You didn't want them when their mother was alive. Grace was crazy. She wouldn't let me see my daughters. Or you disappeared because you didn't want the responsibility. Richard pointed a finger at James's chest. You don't know anything, rich boy. You think you can buy my family. Give them a house, food, clothes, and boom. Now they're yours? I didn't buy anyone. No? Then explain to me why 2 children are living alone with a man they barely know. They're not alone. Their aunt is with them. Mary, Richard laughed again with contempt. That useless woman can barely take care of herself. From inside the gate, Mary screamed with fury, "Get out, Richard, you're worthless." "Shut your mouth." James took a step closer, but kept his hands in his pockets, controlling himself. "Lower your tone. Or else what? What are you going to do?" "Nothing. But you are leaving now." "I'm not going anywhere without my daughters." "Yes, you are leaving." Richard shoved James by the shoulder. It wasn't hard, but it was intentional, provoking. "Get them out of that house, now." "No! You're kidnapping my daughters, you know that? I can call the police." "Call them." Richard hesitated. He didn't expect that direct answer. "Call the police," James repeated. "Explain to them that you abandoned your daughters 8 years ago, that they were living on the street, that their mother died and you didn't even show up for the funeral. Go ahead, call." Richard clenched his jaw with rage. "You think you're better than me?" "I don't think anything. I just know you don't want them. You want money." "Excuse me. How much do you want to leave?" Richard smiled. An ugly, calculating, greedy smile. "Ah, so it's like that? How much?" $5,000. 2,000. "And you sign a paper giving up parental rights." 4,000. 2,500, and you never come back here again." Richard thought for a long moment. He looked at the girls through the bars of the gate. Sarah was crying silently. Lily was hiding her face in Mary's shoulder. 3,000, and I sign whatever you want." James took a deep breath, holding back his disgust. "Come back tomorrow, at noon. I'll have the money and the paper. You sign, and you disappear." "How do I know you won't screw me over? How do I know you won't come back?" Richard spat on the ground. "You don't. Then we'll have to trust each other." Richard took a step back. "Noon. If you don't have the money, I'm coming back with the cops." "I'll have it." Richard looked at the girls one last time with coldness. "You're gonna regret trading me for him." He turned and walked away, stumbling down the street. James waited until he disappeared around the corner before going back inside. When he closed the gate, his legs almost gave out. Sarah ran and hugged him around the waist. Lily came right behind. Mary put her hand on his shoulder, grateful. "Thank you." James hugged the two girls and closed his eyes tight. "He's not taking you away, I promise." "How do you know?" Sarah asked, her voice muffled against his chest. "Because I won't let him." But that night, lying in his room, James lay staring at the ceiling. Richard's words echoed in his head. "You think you can buy my family? 2 children living alone with a man they barely know. You think you're better than me?" James didn't think he was better. He just believed he was present. And being present was already more than Richard had been for the last 8 years. But doubt planted roots in his mind. What if he was wrong? What if he was being selfish? What if he was using the girls to fill the unbearable void Anne and Laura had left? He turned on his side and squeezed his eyes shut. From the floor above, he heard Lily crying softly. He heard Sarah comforting her. "He won't let him take us, right?" "He won't." "How do you know?" "Because James promised, and he doesn't break promises." James got out of bed, walked up the stairs, and stopped at the door of the girls' room. "Can I come in?" "Come in." He sat on the edge of Lily's bed. Sarah was lying next to her, protecting her. "Do you want to stay here?" "We want to," Sarah replied quickly without hesitating. "Even if it means courts, lawyers, fights?" "Even then." "Why?" "Because here we have a home. We have food. We have you." Lily wiped her puffy eyes. "You are more of a dad than he was in his whole life." James felt his throat close up. He ran his hand through Lily's hair with tenderness. "Then I'm going to fight until the end. Understood?" The two nodded. "Sleep. Tomorrow I'll fix this." He left the room, went down, picked up the phone, and called his lawyer even though it was almost midnight. "I need those papers tomorrow morning." "James, it's 11:30 at night." "I know what time it is. Can you do it or not?" Pause on the other end of the line. "I can." "Termination of parental rights?" "That. It's going to cost you." "I don't care." At 9 in the morning I'll be there." James hung up and sat on the dark sofa in the living room. For the first time in 7 years, he had something to lose again. And this time, he was going to fight with everything he had. The lawyer arrived at 9 sharp. Leather briefcase, grey suit, printed documents. James signed where he needed to sign. The lawyer explained every clause. Voluntary relinquishment of parental rights. Opening of guardianship proceedings. Everything legal. Everything meticulously documented. If he signs, the girls officially remain under your temporary guardianship until the final custody order comes out. And if he doesn't sign, then it gets complicated. But with the history of abandonment, you win in court. It just takes longer. How much longer? 6 months? Maybe a year? James looked up. He heard footsteps upstairs. Sarah and Lily were waking up. "He'll sign." The lawyer left at 10. James prepared the money, $3,000 in $100 bills. He put them in the envelope along with the legal papers. Mary came down with the girls. No one had slept well. "Do you want us to stay?" Mary asked. "I do, but inside." "I'll talk to him alone." "James, I know what I'm doing." Noon arrived. James was sitting on the front porch, the envelope on the coffee table, cold coffee in the cup. Richard appeared at 12:15, stumbling a bit. He had already been drinking to give himself courage. "Where's my money?" James pointed to the envelope. "Here." Richard walked up the steps and took the envelope greedily. He opened it, saw the money, smiled. "I knew you were smart. There are some papers in there too." Richard pulled out the documents. He read them over, frowning with difficulty. "What the hell is this? Relinquishment of parental rights. You sign, you take the money, and you never have to worry about them again. You want me to give up my daughters? You already gave them up a long time ago. This just formalizes it." Richard crumpled the papers in anger. "Do you think I'm an idiot? You want to steal my daughters, and on top of that you want me to sign a paper? I'm not stealing anyone. I'm giving them what you never gave them. Security." "Security?" Richard threw the papers on the ground. "You're a stranger. I'm their father. A father cares. A father is there. A father doesn't disappear for 8 years. I had my problems, and they paid for them." Richard took a threatening step forward. James stood up. "Take the money and leave." "Not without my daughters. They're not going with you." "They are too, because I'm the father, and the law is on my side. The law is on the side of the one who cares, and you never cared." Richard shoved James by the shoulder, harder this time. "Get out of my way." James didn't move. "No." Richard shoved again. James stood firm like a rock, but didn't hit back. "You want to fight, is that it? You want me to beat you up in front of them? I want you to be man enough to admit you don't want these girls. You want money, that's all." "Shut your mouth!" Richard tried to push past. James blocked the way. Richard screamed, "Sarah, Lily, get out of that house right now." The door opened, but it wasn't Sarah or Lily. It was Mary. "They're not going anywhere with you." "Move, Mary!" "No!" "I'm the father." "You're nothing!" The neighbors started coming out onto their porches. A woman across the street took out her cell phone to record. Richard went up another step, aggressively invading James's personal space. "Last chance. Get them out of that house or I call the police." "Call them." "You think I won't?" "I think you're bluffing, because if the police come, they're going to want to know where you've been for the last 8 years. They're going to want to know why your daughters were on the street. They're going to want to know if you ever paid child support once." Richard clenched his jaw, cornered. "You don't know anything." "I know you're worthless, just like everyone here knows now." Richard looked around. 3 neighbors staring, 1 recording. Son of a bitch. James didn't look away. "Sign the papers, take the money, and disappear. It's the only thing you know how to do well." Richard breathed heavily, agitated. He seemed about to punch James in the face. That was when Sarah appeared in the doorway. "Stop!" Everyone looked at her. She had her mother's guitar slung on her back. Lily right behind her. "Sarah, go inside," James said with protective authority. "No." Sarah walked down the steps and planted herself between James and Richard. "You're not my dad." Richard took a step back, as if he had been slapped. "Sarah, you never were. A dad is who stays, who cares, who wakes up at dawn when we have nightmares, who makes food, who teaches, who holds your hand. I'm your blood. Blood means nothing. Mum was our blood and she died alone while you were drunk in some bar. I didn't know she was sick. Because you never asked," Sarah screamed. Her voice echoed down the entire silent street. "You never called. You never sent money. You never showed up. And now you want to come back for what? To take money from him and disappear again?" Richard opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Lily came down too and stood by her sister's side, holding her hand. "We don't want you. We want to stay here. You don't know what you're saying. Your children. We know exactly what we're saying," Sarah said with adult firmness. She picked up the papers from the ground, smoothed them out, and held them out to Richard. "Sign, take the money, and never come back." "Sarah, I'm your father." "No, you were an accident my mum had to endure. James is my dad, because he chose to be." Richard looked at James, then at the girls, then at the neighbors, witnessing the whole spectacle. He took the papers with a trembling hand. "You're gonna regret this." "We won't," Lily said. Richard looked at the papers, looked at the pen James held out, looked at the money in the bulging envelope. He signed, fast, almost tearing the paper from so much force and contained rage. He threw the pen on the ground, grabbed the money and hurried down the steps. "You deserve each other, all three of you." He walked to the corner without looking back. A car honked at him when he crossed without looking. He shouted a curse, but kept walking until he disappeared from view. James picked up the papers from the ground. Crooked signature, but legally valid. The neighbors started going back into their houses. The woman recording lowered her phone and waved in solidarity. Mary hugged the two girls tightly. James stood still, holding the papers like a treasure. Sarah looked at him. "We told the truth. You're our dad now. Only if you want me to be." "We do." Lily wiped her eyes. "Forever?" James crouched down in front of them. He held their small hands in his. "Forever." Sarah hugged him around the neck. Lily joined the hug. James closed his eyes and held them as if they were about to break. Mary went inside the house, giving them space. There, on the porch, as the afternoon sun hit from the side, James Bennett understood he had found what he had lost 7 years ago. It wasn't a replacement, it was a restart, and this time he wasn't going to let it slip away for anything in the world. The lawyer returned 3 days later with more documents. James signed. Mary witnessed. The girls stayed in the living room, quiet, waiting. Temporary guardianship approved. Now we wait for the final one. About 4 months. What if he comes back? He signed the total relinquishment. He can't come back. If he tries, it's a crime. James breathed a sigh of relief for the first time in days. When the lawyer left, he sat on the couch between Sarah and Lily. "You are officially mine, at least for now." "And afterwards?" Sarah asked. "Afterwards, if you want, I adopt you for real. Last name, birth certificate, everything." Lily looked at him with eyes shining intensely. "Can we have your last name?" "You can. Sarah and Lily Bennett, if you want." "I want to," Lily said quickly. Sarah thought for a solemn moment, then nodded. "Me too." Mary wiped her tears from the kitchen. She had decided to keep living with them, not as a maid but as family, aunt, grandmother, whatever needed to be. The first change was school. James enrolled both of them in a private school near the house. New uniforms, brand-name backpacks, full supplies. Sarah was nervous on the first day of school. "What if nobody likes us?" "They will like you." "How do you know?" "Because you're amazing. You just need to give them time." Lily ran into the schoolyard. Sarah walked in slowly, looking back once before the door closed. James waited in the car until the bell rang. 2 weeks later, Sarah came home talking about a new friend. Lily came home talking about 3. The second change was music. James hired a private conservatory teacher. Twice a week she came to the house and gave lessons in singing, guitar, music theory. They have raw talent, but talent needs technique, she said at the first lesson. Sarah absorbed everything like a sponge. Lily struggled more but improved noticeably every week. James watched whenever he could. He stood at the door of the room listening. Sometimes the teacher asked him to come in to give his opinion. "What did you think?" "I thought it was beautiful." "Be honest." "I am being honest." The teacher smiled, satisfied. "Your daughters are going to go far." Your daughters. James liked how that sounded in someone else's mouth. The third month brought the first recital, small, at the music school. 10 students presenting their pieces. Sarah and Lily would sing together, the same song from the competition, their mother's song. On the night of the recital, James wore a dark suit. Mary put on an elegant dress. The girls wore the competition dresses, now altered and perfectly clean. The auditorium had 50 people. James sat in the front row with his camera ready. When Sarah and Lily went up on stage, he felt his chest tighten with pride. They weren't nervous anymore. They weren't afraid anymore. They were confident, steady, ready for the world. The music began. Lily's voice filled the space with strength and heartbreaking emotion. Sarah accompanied on the guitar with surgical precision. When they finished, the audience stood up. James, too. He applauded until his hands hurt. Sarah and Lily walked off stage smiling. They ran to hug him. "Did we do good?" "You were perfect." Mary hugged them from behind. Grace would be very proud. Lily looked up at the auditorium ceiling. "Do you think she saw?" "I'm certain she saw." Driving back home, James stopped on the way and bought pizza. They celebrated in the living room, watching the video he had recorded. "Look at my concentration face," Sarah laughed. "Look how my voice cracked there," Lily pointed out critically. "Nothing cracked. It was beautiful." That night after the girls fell asleep, James went up to the room that had been Laura's. He opened the closet. He took out the toy box. Mary appeared in the doorway. "Are you going to donate them?" "Yes." "It doesn't make sense to keep them here." "Are you sure?" James looked at the box, looked at the music box Anne had bought on a trip, looked at the teddy bear Laura held when she slept. "Sure. They'll make another child happy. Anne would be proud of you." "I hope so." In the 4th month, the legal judgment came through. Final custody approved by the judge. James Bennett was officially the legal guardian of Sarah and Lily. They went to the courthouse together. The girls signed where needed. James, too. The clerk stamped the papers firmly. "Congratulations on the new family." James looked at the girls. "Thank you." In the car, Sarah held the new document, legal guardianship certificate. Her name, Lily's name, James's name as guardian. "Now it's real," she said quietly. "It was always real. Now it's just on a piece of paper." They renovated the rooms, painted the walls. Sarah chose a soft, serene blue. Lily chose vibrant lilac. They bought frames, shelves, desks to study. James hung photos on the wall of the main hallway. Sarah and Lily at the park, the 3 of them at the recital. Mary cooking and laughing, photos of a real family. The house felt different. It had color, it had sound, it had life pulsing in every corner. One night, James was washing dishes when Sarah appeared behind him silently. "Can I ask you a question?" "You can." "Are you happy?" James turned off the faucet, dried his hands, and turned around. "Very." "Really? Because we mess up the house, make noise, give you work." "Sarah, look at me." She looked him in the eye. "Before you, this house was a cemetery. I woke up, worked, came back, slept. I didn't have a reason for anything. Now I wake up and I know there are 2 girls waiting for breakfast. There is music in the hall. There is laughter in the living room. I have a reason. Are we your reason? You are my whole life." Sarah hugged him around the waist tightly. James returned the embrace. "Thank you for not giving up on us. Thank you for letting me stay." 6 months after the signing, Richard appeared one last time. Not at the house, at court. He signed the final and total relinquishment of parental rights in exchange for not being criminally prosecuted for child abandonment. The lawyer acted as a witness. Everything was ironclad. When he left, James tore up the check he had prepared just in case. It wasn't necessary anymore. The girls were his. Officially, legally, definitively. And this time, no one was going to take them away from him. 5 years later, the theatre had 400 seats, all occupied down to the last one. The lights went down. The murmur of the audience died instantly. 2 spotlights illuminated the stage. Sarah entered from the left, guitar in hand. 17 years old now, hair up elegantly, posture of someone who has already walked on much bigger stages. Lily entered from the right. Simple but dazzling dress, microphone in hand, smile full of confidence. Backstage, James watched with his arms crossed, hair grayer, wrinkles marked at the corners of his eyes. Mary by his side, leaning on a cane after her knee surgery, but smiling radiantly. "They grew up too fast," Mary whispered with nostalgia. "They grew up. You did a good job, James. We did a good job." On stage, Sarah adjusted the guitar, the same one James had fixed with his own hands 5 years ago. The strings had already been changed 3 times, but the wood continued to be solid and resonant. Lily addressed the audience. "We learned this song with our mother. She sang it every day, even when there was no reason to celebrate. Even when life was unbearably difficult, she said music was the only thing no one could ever take away from us." Sarah continued, her voice mature and serene. 5 years ago, we sang this song in a restaurant, asking for food. A man listened to us when everyone else laughed. He changed our life forever. This performance is for him." James felt a lump in his throat. Mary squeezed his arm affectionately. The music began. The same melody from the restaurant. The same as the school competition, but now played with years of technique, of tireless practice, of a life lived with love. Lily's voice filled the theatre to the last row. It wasn't the trembling voice of a hungry child anymore. It was the powerful voice of someone who had found her rightful place in the world. When the last note faded, the theatre exploded in applause. People standing, shouts of "Bravo!" whistles of admiration. Sarah and Lily hugged in the center of the stage. Then they took a deep bow. "Dad, come up here," Lily called into the microphone. James shook his head, shy. "Come up," Sarah insisted. The audience started clapping again, encouraging him to go up. Mary pushed him gently. "Go." James walked up onto the stage. The lights blinded him for a second. Sarah took one hand, Lily took the other. "This is our dad," Lily told the audience with pride. "He found us when we had nothing, and he gave us absolutely everything." "He didn't just give us a house or food," Sarah continued. "He gave us the chance to be who we always wanted to be. That's why everything we achieve from here on out is his, too." The applause started up again, louder. James hugged them both, while the audience witnessed that love. 3 years after that recital, Sarah entered the music conservatory. Lily chose to study law, but continued singing in her free time. They recorded an independent EP that played on local radio stations. They played gigs in trendy bars, private parties, cultural events. Nothing huge, but enough to prove that Grace's dream hadn't died in vain. James went to every concert without missing a single one. Front row, always. Sometimes he took Mary. Sometimes he went alone, but he was always there, present. The house continued to be full of life. Sarah brought her first boyfriend to dinner. James asked all the embarrassing questions a jealous father asks. Lily laughed the whole time at the situation. Mary aged slowly, but with enormous dignity. She continued cooking, caring, participating in everything. She became a grandmother without having children of her own. One random Sunday, James was organizing old photos when he found the one from the day at the restaurant. A neighbor had taken it without him knowing. 2 barefoot, skinny, frightened little girls standing in front of the glass door. He placed the photo next to a recent one, Sarah and Lily on the theatre stage, illuminated, smiling, alive, the same people, completely different lives. That night, the family ate dinner together. Simple food, steak, salad, but the table was full. Animated conversation, loud laughter, future plans. "Remember when we ate here for the first time?" Lily asked. "I remember. You ate so fast you almost choked," Sarah replied, laughing. "Because I was starving." "We both were." James listened in silence, smiling with peace in his soul. After dinner, Sarah picked up the guitar. Lily started singing a soft melody. Mary clapped her hands to the rhythm. James closed his eyes and listened. And he realized that this, right here, this shared table, this music in the air, this family he had chosen and who had chosen him back, was everything he had always wanted. It wasn't a replacement for what he had tragically lost. It was living proof that life always gives new chances to those who have the courage to hold on to them. Because in the end, family isn't defined by blood. It's about who stays, who cares unconditionally, about who chooses every day to keep choosing to be there. And James had chosen, just as Sarah and Lily had chosen him, and that choice changed 3 destinies forever.